In response to a growing security threat, the Ministry of Home Affairs has granted Z category security to Tibetan spiritual leader His Holiness the Dalai Lama, based on a detailed threat assessment report from the Intelligence Bureau. A chilling death threat has been made against the Dalai Lama, prompting immediate action by the Indian authorities. Intel sources have told CNN News 18, shared with us by Manoj Kumar Gupta, Network 18 Group Editor in Investigations and Security Affairs, that the Dalai Lama is under threat from an Australian citizen of Tibetan origin named Singhe. Singhe has issued threats on social media, specifically on Meta platforms, Facebook, calling for the assassination of the Dalai Lama, comparing the act to the assassination of Libya's Muammar Gaddafi. Singhe is now subject to prohibition orders under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita or BNS. Singhe has been booked under various sections of the BNS, and the district administration has cited various violations by Singhe, including waging war against Bharat and acts causing public nuisance and community disturbance. Top intelligence sources further reveal that the government considers this threat with utmost seriousness due to its international implications. The recent death threat to the Dalai Lama has far-reaching consequences, not just for Bharat, but for the global community at large. The intel sources also underline the ramifications of this threat, the various angles. The Dalai Lama holds immense significance for the Tibetan diaspora, which is spread across Bharat, China, Bhutan and Nepal. And with a sizable number of Tibetans residing in Bharat, any threat to their spiritual leader could ignite widespread unrest among the community. Intel sources further reveal that the death threats made against the Dalai Lama could escalate into a more significant geopolitical crisis, given the Dalai Lama's international stature as a peace icon. Any harm to him may fuel tensions between Bharat and China. Sources also added that the threats against the Dalai Lama have caused deep distress among Tibetans both in Bharat and abroad. According to intelligence reports, the threat to the Dalai Lama has already sparked protests in various parts of Bharat, and sources predict that large-scale demonstrations could erupt if any harm comes to the spiritual leader. And intel sources stress that if the Dalai Lama is harmed in any way, it could severely damage Bharat's international reputation, especially regarding its stance on religious tolerance and human rights. And in the aftermath of the chilling death threats against the Dalai Lama, CNN News 18 has also accessed the CCP's latest strategy to delegitimize the Tibetan spiritual leader. Intel sources have told CNN News 18 and Manoj Kumar Gupta getting us these details that the Chinese Communist Party has effectively utilized state-controlled media to craft a narrative around the Dalai Lama that paints him as an enemy of the state, accusing him of inciting violence and unrest in Tibet. Now, one of the CCP's primary tactics is spreading propaganda that aims to turn Tibetans against His Holiness. The Tibetan children are taught a distorted narrative that labels the Dalai Lama as a separatist who seeks to divide China. The CCP asserts that Tibet has always been an integral part of China and that Tibetan Buddhism should be under the control of the CCP and not exiled religious leaders. The CCP has employed coercion and intimidation to silence any support for the Dalai Lama. Monasteries are forced to denounce him, while monks who remain loyal face arrest, torture and forced re-education. The state-run media outlets like the Global Times, Xinhua and CGTN, along with a network of fake social media accounts, are being used to spread false allegations accusing the Dalai Lama of inciting violence and colluding with Western powers. Now, furthermore, the CCP's biggest tool is to promote alternative Tibetan Buddhist leaders. Now, Tibetans living abroad recruited to spy on the Dalai Lama. Controlling the succession of the Dalai Lama is another key objective for the CCP. They claim the authority to choose the next Dalai Lama, rejecting any successor chosen by His Holiness or the Tibetan community at large. Now, China's Panchen Lama is used as a political tool to replace the Dalai Lama's influence. Furthermore, the images of the Dalai Lama are banned in Tibet, and any expression of loyalty to him is being criminalized. China has increasingly turned to covert and coercive methods to undermine the Dalai Lama's influence, using a variety of tactics to weaken Tibetan unity and shift global perception. Intel sources have further revealed that Tibetans are recruited, bribed and blackmailed by China both inside Tibet and abroad into serving its political interests. Through a series of coercive measures, Tibetans are being pressured into aligning with China's political goals. China has been utilizing Tibetan origin individuals who have been brought under its influence or are sympathetic to its agenda to create divisions within the Tibetan community. Efforts to create rifts within the Tibetan diaspora are also underway, and as Tibetans are being manipulated into opposing one another. In an attempt to manipulate manipulate global perceptions of the Dalai Lama. Campaigns are being run wildly, rapidly, and being fueled by bot networks and pro-CCP influencers. A recent example of the CCP's propaganda efforts occurred in April 2023 when a video of the Dalai Lama interacting with an Indian boy was manipulated and disseminated online. Chinese propagandists have edited the Dalai Lama's past video to falsely labeling him as a pedophile. China has expertly capitalized on the lack of understanding about Tibetan culture and traditions in the West to spread falsehoods about the Dalai Lama. With the increasing global focus on child protection, China has also used past videos of His Holiness to heighten sensitivity and also the attack on the Dalai Lama. Let's go across to our guest, Tenzin Sundu, Tibetan writer and activist with us, Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow ORF with us, and we should have Andrew K.P. Leung, China strategist, also to join us very, very soon. My namaste. Thank you very, very much. Tenzin, how would you respond to what we have now got? There is a threat, there is security that's been increased, but this is also part of a larger gameplay.
Well, at the moment, China is in a desperate situation. China's economy is collapsing. Xi Jinping's leadership is facing major power struggle within China. China is facing boycotts and isolation from Western countries. Many of the Western countries, they have diverted their investments from China to India, Vietnam, Bangladesh, and many other countries. So China is in a desperate situation. Xi Jinping is trying to save his own position as the dictator there, and this is his third term. So therefore, China is now desperate. They want to, at the one point in time, they are saying they want to invade Taiwan militarily. They have been pushing their PLA soldiers across the Himalayas into Indian, Nepali, and Bhutanese territories. They have been occupying Tibet, southern Mongolia, East Turkestan, Manchuria for 75 years, and now China is losing control in their own country. People of China want freedom and democracy. Therefore, Xi Jinping is facing the biggest challenge in his life. So therefore, it is possible that the Chinese may be designing its own different ways in trying to either harm His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who is safe here in India. So therefore, the Tibetan free people running our freedom struggle for 75 years, we are much more hopeful today. So China is in this desperate situation. Therefore, there are possibilities that China may be doing funny things in Europe, in America, and also across the borders here in India also. China has been extending their own networks of spies, intelligence officers, and also people who double up for the Chinese secret offices in many countries in Europe are also being used for that kind of dubious actions. So, these are moments when China can be doing funny things.
Right. Sushant Sareen?
So, Anand, nothing is new in what China is trying to do. In fact, for almost a decade, maybe even longer, they have been preparing for the day when the transition takes place from the current Dalai Lama to the next one. And they have been trying to prepare a ground, both inside Tibet, where they have been trying to undermine His Holiness the Dalai Lama among the Tibetans, and of course carrying out a very vicious propaganda campaign against him. And it's been a no-holds-barred kind of a thing. And they've been pretty clear that even when His Holiness has spoken about some kind of reconciliation, the Chinese have been adamant that they are not going to recognize him. Now, it's kind of funny for a godless communist party to claim that Buddhism will be decided by the Communist Party leadership, by the CCP. That's kind of strange, by any stretch of imagination. But that's what they are attempting to do. That's what they've done with Islam, for example. And their assessment is that just as Muslim societies around the world have lumped it, they have kept quiet, they continue to do business with China. Bludgeoning the Tibetans into submission is not a big deal. So I think this is what they've been trying to do. And what is important is how the Tibetan diaspora ensures that the Chinese plans to undermine the succession of His Holiness the Dalai Lama is not going to be questioned. That it will not allowed to be undermined. This is, at the end of the day, this is at one level a spiritual and a religious transition that has to take place. And I don't see how any government, least of all a godless communist regime, can have any say in how a particular religious denomination decides who its successor is going to be. Clearly, the Chinese are going to put a pretender to the throne. That's a given. And that is what they will hope will become fait accompli. And then, of course, whoever they put up will be their puppet, who they will control on their strings, and that is it. And that is how they hope that they'll be able to completely snuff out Tibetan resistance. And I think it would make much more sense for them to enter into some kind of a reconciliation mode with the current Dalai Lama, because I think he is a man who has shown that he is open to a kind of a negotiated settlement. But I don't think, because the Chinese, look, regardless of what my colleague earlier was saying, I don't think the Chinese are going to be dissuaded by the current problems which the Chinese economy might be facing, the current geopolitical winds that are blowing. In fact, the Chinese will probably think that this is an opportunity for them to double down on Tibet, on suppressing and repressing the Tibetans. Because after all, the Americans under Donald Trump don't seem to be particularly interested in a geopolitical contestation. He's mostly interested in a trade and economic related kind of a fight. So I think the Chinese probably think that they might be able to get away with it. So I don't see them, waking up, smelling the coffee and deciding to do the right thing. I think they will double down, as all communists do. They're bloodthirsty, they have a bloodlust. And that is the history of communism around the world, including in China, where hundreds of the people have been killed by these communists. So I don't suppose, Tibetan or how the transition is going to take place is going to dissuade the current regime in Beijing.
No, and Andrew K. Pilliam, is there a serious attempt by the CCP to try and not just demean, delegitimize His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and sooner or later try and replace him with who they believe should be their successor, the Panchen Lama, as they have claimed? And what is their interest in doing this? Is this to complete the full takeover of Tibet? And to
I think that, I think that we should depart from this long-standing practice of calling the Chinese government CCP. That's been deleted even from the American, the Trump 2.0 foreign ministry website, and just calling China, China. And it's governed by the Communist Party, but on the other hand, the Communist Party has been largely supported by the Chinese people, according to the Harvard Kennedy School and various studies, very high ranking. Now, coming back to the Dalai Lama, of course, the Dalai Lama has a history of encouraging pro-independence or separation movement in Tibet. And of course, this is not allowed because no country would allow a part of its territory being separated. The same goes for India. But I think that the government, the Chinese government, has been long looking at the succession problem and studying the religious text to make sure that any kind of reincarnation would be consistent with the sovereignty of a part of China. So I think that this is going to happen. As to whether there are not any opportunities
how can a religious process
with the
how can a religious process be synced with a political motive and then say that it is genuine? Then you're yourself saying that the Chinese government is trying to orchestrate this, and it's not a genuine one. It is to suit their own political interests rather than to uphold the religious faith and the belief of a particular sect.
Look. I mean, the religion is not. It's not all religions are the same, and as far as the Lama, the Tibetan religion is concerned, it's more than a religion. It's got to do with the whole politics in Tibet. As I said, I mean, it's been aligning with
but
the
Andrew
pro-independence
Kepilong, if
movement.
you say that it's been politicized, then you have to ask this
Kepilong,
question: who politicized it? How did it get politicized?
No, it's not the question of
Did the Tibetans
it's
invade
history.
China, or did the CCP and the PLA invade Tibet and annex it? It was not Chinese territory; it was forcefully occupied, and it is still. India had its borders with Tibet. It didn't have its Tibet borders with China. This is history, sir. 1948, 49. What happened, and thereafter,
read
everybody
your
knows.
history properly. Well,
okay.
don't try to drown me out, okay?
I'm not trying to
This is
drown you out, sir. I'm
channel.
questioning
Well,
your
yeah.
own. You
Well,
only said
allow me
that the
opportunity to
CCP
respond
wants to
and
put
not
someone
trying
there
to-
who will be politically convenient to them.
Well, I
so
mean,
you are saying that they want to
that's
corrupt the religious practice and the movement of the
No,
Tibetan
no, no,
Buddhists
no, no. Well,
based on how
that's
it is
my point.
convenient to them.
My point is that
No,
the
I want to ask
Tibetan
a question to
religion is
Kepilong.
more than a
I
religion.
have a question.
It's part of the government.
Who is deciding that? Then are you saying Christianity is more than a religion because Catholicism
No,
and
okay.
the Roman Church is also politicized, sir? Are you then saying that? Are you saying that America is also using Christianity as a political form because it's a Christian country? Then sir, an occupied nation whose people are forced to flee and are living as refugees for more than 7 decades, they are being politicized. They are more than a religion. But a country whose leadership professes atheism and does not believe in any religion has done nothing wrong. He is going to decide how that religion should conduct itself.
You don't want me to answer. You don't want me to answer. So,
Sir,
I'm leaving this channel. okay?
it beats
You don't
me.
want to answer.
It
Don't
beats
give
me.
the opportunity
But
to answer.
we
I'm leaving this channel.
are awaiting some more details. I have paucity of time, but we will take this forward. Doesn't end here, sir. But high time that the Tibetan population and the Tibetans under His Holiness the Dalai Lama are very, very serious about where they want to take things forward, because 2 regions of Tibet are already lost. They are now reduced to only central Tibet region. What happens next is a big question, and what the role is India going to play to help our neighbors is something that we also have to decide.